Welcome back. I'm Brandon, the HBAR Bull, once again joined by Zepsi. We both do some contract work for the HBAR Foundation, but we don't do these weekly updates in any official capacity. We're just coming to you personally to give you the latest in the Hedera ecosystem. Welcome, Zep.
How's it going, Brandon?
It's going good. We had another good week, but as always, none of this is financial advice. Use it for entertainment or educational purposes only. So last week, we covered two of our three big wallets. We had a new feature come out for Walla Wallet. We also talked about some security for our main DeFi wallet, Hashpack. And I wanted to round that out by talking to our other big wallet, and that's Blade Wallet. They're really enterprise focused. A lot of the things that we talk about on this weekly update, they're actually in the background of. And so I caught up with Sammy from Blade Wallet. He's their CEO, and he surprised me with a pretty darn big giveaway. So let's listen into what he has to say. Sammy, I hear about more and more applications that are leveraging Blade Wallet all the time. Can you start off by telling us about your integrations with LG Art Lab?
Absolutely. So we've been working with LG for a while now. And as many of you might know, at CES 2023, which is the world's largest consumer electronics show in Las Vegas on January 4th, I think it was, they announced Blade Wallet as their wallet and also as their gaming wallet. So what we have been doing with LG for about 3 months is that we want to provide LG customers, which are predominantly Web2 customers, a seamless onboarding experience and also a seamless purchase experience for the NFTs. And finally, we will continue to add utility to the NFTs that they sell to their users. And there's actually a specific giveaway that I wanted to introduce to the community, Hedera community predominantly. And unfortunately, this giveaway is targeted to just US people. So Brandon, I believe you're in the US. So please, by all means, get involved. LG Art Lab released an NFT collection by this artist called Barry Ball. Very, very famous in his own circle in New York, a fine art creator. And one of his NFTs is $1,000. So what we're doing is, along with LG Art Lab, we're going to do a giveaway. And we are going to give away at least one, maybe up to three $1,000 NFTs. And, you know, we've asked people, hey, would you be happy with this NFT? And a lot of them say, well, yeah, I mean, $1,000 NFT is cool, but we don't have an LG TV to experience this NFT on. So we went to LG Art Lab, we told them the feedback, and they're like, all right, throw in a few TVs. So that's what we're doing. You'll get a LG Art Lab NFT by Barry Ball. And if you go to a website, the website will token gate you, and then you'll also win LG TV. So,
unbelievable.
You know, that's sort of a giveaway that LG Art Lab they've been wanting to give away to the Hedera ecosystem. And we understand the first NFT was a bit expensive. This is our kind of way of getting to really engage with the community. There's another one that I just wanted to highlight is a sale that just went live by another artist, Jeremy Fall. And these NFTs we're calling mini NFTs. So they're $20 NFTs. You can buy them already today on the LG Art Lab platform. And this also would have token gating ability. So that's another thing that we're working with LG and other partners is we want to continue adding utility to NFTs. And we think token gating is a fantastic way to do that. So if you buy with these NFTs, you go to a website and then the website will make sure that you have this NFT and you'll get either credited with some tokens or some NFTs or some invitation to some art festivals, maybe even some museum back passes, you know, things like that.
Sammy, thank you so much. I actually just got an LG TV for Christmas, so I'm looking forward to everything we can do with it. So Blade is also brought up when we're talking to a lot of our gaming entrepreneurs building in the space. Can you tell us about some of those collaborations as well?
Yeah, absolutely. So our first partner who launched with us was Slime World, and Slime World was a case where it was a Web2 game and they wanted to integrate certain functionality of Web3. Things like selling their NFTs, things like using the NFTs in their games. So again, it's a Web2 game. They already had a game that was live. They already had users. They already had a fantastic game, and they were just adding on some Web3 utility. So we worked with them, and then we created a seamless flow. It increased their conversions from 3%. In other words, before, people who played the game, only 3% of them wanted to use Web3 utility. After we integrated with them, 80% of the people that played the game started using Web3 utility. So that was our first kind of success case. On the back of that, we started getting involved with more games. The other game company is 1-11. It's also a P2E gaming company. And although a little bit seasonal, for example, during cricket season, during World Cup season, the game sees a lot more traction. But this is actually on the back of the learning of Slime World, we did something very similar. So they just wanted to tack on some Web3 utility to their existing game. Both of these use cases, we use what we call deep link. In other words, you have the Slime World or 1-11 app, and you also have to download the Blade app. And this was because they wanted a less intrusive way, and they didn't want to spend too much dev effort to integrate with Web3 utility. The next use case that we're working on right now, Astronova, which is a meta RPG game, and they're building a fantastic, I would say, metaverse experienced role-playing game. Actually, role-playing games has always been my favorite type of game. And they are a game that has already traction in the Ethereum ecosystem. So now we're actually taking games or assets on the Ethereum ecosystem, and with the integration of Hashport, we're able to port these assets over to Hedera and back and forth. So Astronova is a little bit different in terms of integration than 1-11 or Slime World, in that we are creating for them a custom solution where the user does not need to exit their game to create Hedera accounts or purchase NFTs. So this is an SDK solution. Their game is built on Unreal Engine. So we are creating a wrapper that allows Unreal Engine games to communicate with Hedera. There's some other games, for example, Unity games, we're doing the same. We're creating wrappers so that they could do the same thing. Our intention is to provide the tooling necessary for gaming partners to be able to provide their users with an end-to-end experience without leaving the game and experience all the goodness of Web3. And specifically, I think Hedera is very, very well suited for these gaming use cases.
Yeah, without a question. And for years, I've been involved with Hedera for a long time, but for years, I was hoping that we would see games. And all of a sudden, now it's like a tidal wave of focus and entertainment and everything else that's coming out of that gaming space. So it's just great to see. We've covered enough already, but are there any other enterprises that you're working with that you'd like to highlight?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So actually, on the gaming thread, and this was just because it was just yesterday, so Koala Hash Club just announced that they're going to launch their game Koala Fight Club. And that is a game that I personally am quite excited about because we see potential collaborations with the company the t-shirt that you're wearing with, Karate Combat, right? These are koalas fighting. Karate Combat is a very, very successful sports league. So we're already talking about some potential collaborations. Some other use cases, yes, Karate Combat, and Karate Combat solution is going to be us embedded into their app. So their app is going to be powered by Blade. It's going to be hidden in the background. The integration is by and large done. We're just waiting for the launch for the next fight, which will be soon. I don't know if they have announced it yet, but the dates are set. So that'll be announced. We also have a very exciting use case, a phygital use case, I would say, with a company called Mio.tech. We're building on it. They're using our Kotlin wrapper, which is basically an Android SDK. So their use case is you actually go to a physical store, buy a bag, let's say a Louis Vuitton bag. You scan the QR code and the NFT is dropped into your Blade wallet. Now, the amazing thing about this Mio, and one more thing I wanted to highlight, is they have other business segments, and we are already connecting them to companies like LG and some of the other companies in our ecosystem. So this is what we see the future of the Blade ecosystem. The more companies that come on and build, the more we can cross-pollinate and the more value is added to the general Hedera ecosystem.
The really exciting thing is a lot of the applications that you were talking about today have yet to launch. So I know I can't wait to get my hands on some of these things. Sammy, thank you so much for swinging by and giving us the inside track.
Fantastic. Thanks, Brandon.
So Zep, I didn't know about the Jeremy Fall NFTs. What were your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, it's great to see another artist external from Web3 getting that onboarding from the LG Art Lab, because, you know, they're clearly going towards being a more sort of fine art facing platform. You know, in the same way that you have fine art and obviously what fine art in the traditional world, they want to kind of be the bridge between the Web 2 fine art world and the Web 3 fine art world. And so obviously they've got Barry X Bull, but they've got this new one that they've just mentioned with Jeremy Full. And I thought the NFT looked really cool, actually. You know, he's posted it out to all of his following. He's got a big audience. You know, I've seen some people posting that they've bought it and so on and so forth. So hopefully they'll have good success there. But, you know, it's definitely one of those platforms that the more, you know, it needs to grow and get bigger and get more people's eyes on it, get more attention. And then, you know, things will really start selling out, I think. You know, it's in its very, very nascency. But I did see, actually, so Hash Farms, David, he made a valid point on the LG Art Lab post, and he said, you know, what are these NFTs without utility? And just as a sort of rebuttal of that, in my own personal opinion, I think that the audience, like I previously just said, that the LG Art Lab is targeting isn't this kind of NFT degen culture, which is, you know, that has this expectation of utility tied up in it, whether that's a token, whether that's, you know, being flown out somewhere, whatever it might be. That idea of utility is purely from a certain part of the NFT market within Web3. You know, that doesn't exist in the real world, in the Web2 real world, rather, the fine arts. People buy art to collect it and maybe flip a profit on it appreciating in value. But there's no expectation of anything beyond owning that piece and either holding it or selling it. You know, that's just what it's been for years and years and years. And there is definitely that side of digital art within the NFT world, within particularly in generative art, whereby people are just buying them to hold them. You know, some of them are buying them because they really like them. Some of them are buying them because they're an upcoming artist and I think will be worth more down the line. But it doesn't have this promise of utility. You know, I was at an exhibition actually on Tuesday, I believe, with a curator called Mimi who hosts this platform called Verseworks, and I saw some amazing artists there, mainly from Ethereum, mainly from Tezos. But the one thing that they all shared in common was a love for art's sake. And you know, if NFTs didn't exist, they'd still be making digital art. The thing that NFTs has enabled them to do is have their own digital fingerprint on it, to say it belongs to them, to have these on-chain royalties, and to have that piece of art follow them throughout history and always be associated with them. There's nothing to do with utility. It's just being able to prove that they created it. It is theirs. They are the original creator, and that the owner can be, you know, measured throughout time, or tracked throughout time rather. So yeah, I think like NFTs on LG Art Lab, more fine art, less about this utility that we see in different cultures of NFTs, and more about just art for art's sake. And I think that's really what they're going for there. So, you know, I'm not expecting utility. I'm expecting just high profile fine artists. But, you know, we'll see what happens.
Yeah, but as Sammy said, you know, they are looking to add some utility to these. They're looking at token gating, things along those lines. You know, the way I look at these Barry Ball NFTs, and they are absolutely beautiful, is, you know, during a dinner party or a cocktail party or a corporate event, have one of these beautiful LG TVs up there and have it up there. And then pretty much it's a conversation piece, just like any other art would be. So it's just great to see. I think it's another dynamic of the Hedera NFT ecosystem. And the giveaway is certainly good as well. So they're going to be doing one of those, I think, this weekend. And I think they're going to save one for Generation Infinity. They have Hashtimes next week. So they're going to have one for that as well. So huge giveaways, fun to watch. All right, so the next thing we wanted to cover is Humans.ai. That was an announcement put out by the HBAR Foundation. Do you have any information on that one?
Yeah, so they are they've got a big audience in their own right already. I think they've sort of got about 50K on Twitter, and it seems like they are real people based on the views they get, based on the comments they get. So it seems like they have nurtured a real community of their own outside of Hedera. And so they've got this sort of project called AIverse, which is basically these AI, combining AI and NFTs. And, obviously those are two big buzzwords. It sounds like a marketing ploy. But the first product that they're launching on Hedera, currently in closed beta, I believe, is something called Clone. And so what this is a text-to-speech AI, like a realistic-looking AI, where you type something in and it'll talk to you in a certain voice type, with a certain face, whatever it might be. It's a very interesting use of AI. We see it a lot. Sometimes it can be scary with like fake news and things like that when you see like a politician that's been rendered into an AI. But that's only one part of it. This stuff can be used for so many different things. Companies that don't need to employ someone but can use this robot to do talking, whatever it might be. Sounds a bit despotic, but that's where things are going. And so it enables a small company that doesn't have a lot of employees, doesn't have a lot of capital, to have perhaps a front man, whatever it might be, to talk without them having to, train someone up, pay someone too much money that they can't afford. So to actually use these AIs is where HBAR NFTs come in, because I assume you start off with a very standard voice type, very standard face type, whatever it might be. But if you actually want to dig into that utility, if you want to try out new voices, different accents, different languages, different faces, whatever it might be, you have to own the Hedera specific NFT. And so there's a direct demand for the fundamental product is fundamentally tied to owning these NFTs. So hopefully it's one of those things, it's a very interesting idea. I haven't really seen it before. They're obviously a big team already. DECA4 are big in the UAE as a consultancy firm that, the foundation has worked with many times on different projects as well. And they get high caliber projects in, and we're only going to see more of them. And this is an example of that. So yeah, great to have them on board. Great to have them crossing over to Hedera. And I believe, actually, just throwing it back, I think it's the first use of the HIP that enables Ethereum, like cross-chain NFTs, like ones from Ethereum to port over to Hedera, if I'm not mistaken. I'll dive into that more for next week, because I haven't gone too deep into that. But yeah, so in my opinion, a great project all around.
Yeah, and I do have a quote from their head of blockchain. He said that we're excited for Humans.ai to revolutionize the AI industry. Our AI verse will launch as the first executable AI NFT ecosystem that is interoperable between human blockchains for AIs and the Hedera network. To enjoy widespread adoption, it is essential for our AI NFTs to be interoperable and communicate with different blockchain protocols. We're excited to be wrapping our AI NFTs on Hedera to help manage their usage while benefiting from the fast, energy efficient, and secure decentralized network provided by Hedera. So like you said, I think they are doing a great job, and they're a great team to have working in our ecosystem. All right, now to shift gears a little bit, we'll get into Hedera Gaming. Of course, Liithos is absolutely knocking it out of the park. What have you seen come out of Liithos lately?
Yeah, so we saw the collaboration between Liithos and Michael Lee. Michael Lee being a TikTok superstar with 53 million plus followers. And so what they're doing to sort of, I guess, pre-create this hype, get the hype going for the actual game itself, is to do something that we've never really seen before. Liithos is inherently a gaming and entertainment studio. And so we knew that they were creating the game, but now we're seeing the entertainment side. And, obviously Michael Mbauer has had a foot in both worlds from his creations. Like we've said before, Uncharted becoming a blockbuster, Last of Us becoming an HBO series. It seems that he's realized that there's this cross in the middle, in the middle of the Venn diagram between movies and films. There is a very, very ripe spot for consumers. The games that are built nowadays are of such high quality, of such strong narrative, that they can be they're almost films in themselves. And so they easily become films. And so it looks like what they're doing here is almost preempting. Maybe Liithos in 5 years, 6 years time will be a game, and they've realized the entertainment factor of their narrative so that they can create a small series with a TikTok star like Michael Lee, bring that into the world, generate the hype, and show up to 53 million people every Sunday for the next 5 weeks an HBAR NFT. So at the end of each episode, there's an Hedera NFT that you can mint on CoinZoom, and I believe it's coming to Hashpack as well, so it's easier for Hedera native users. So yeah, all in all, hopefully we'll get a lot of people into the ecosystem through that, a lot of new eyes. And if even at the smallest thing, it'll be a lot of people who find out about Ashford, and that benefits us down the line anyway. So yeah, really, really big announcement there.
Yeah, Liithos is hitting on all cylinders, and I'm excited about the gaming space because it's a similar demographic that gets excited about crypto and gets excited about gaming, but a lot of times they haven't crossed at this point. But I think that's about to happen with Liithos. And Zep, there is also a lot of news coming out of our DeFi space. The first thing that I wanted to talk about is Heliswap. They're going to be introducing their new native token, Heli token, and they have an innovative way that they're going to be launching it. And that's through something they call a Lockdrop. So I caught up with Max from their team to give us a full explanation. Heliswap is going to be using an innovative method for setting up your native token liquidity pool. It's what you're calling a Lockdrop. Can you explain it, Max?
Yes, awesome. Thank you very much for having us. So before we go into the details of the Lockdrop, we got to move back a little bit to explain kind of what's our reasoning and why we ended up going with this type of strategy. So as most of you probably have heard, Heliswap is launching as a proper DAO as well. And the DAO features are just as important to us as the DEX and further DeFi products that we're going to be building. And so we were, of course, sitting back and thinking what makes a successful DAO. And for us, it's really important to be truly decentralized and community driven. So in line with this approach and strategy, we were thinking, how can we launch our very own Heli token as decentralized and as fair and community driven as possible, which essentially led us to the Lockdrop approach. Just to give an insight on what this means, it means that anyone can really contribute HBAR and participate in the Lockdrop pool. There's no minimum ticket size. There's no SAPT or other agreement, no geographic restrictions. There's no preferential treatments. There's also no real advantage of being first person locking in liquidity, for example. You don't need to get up in the middle of the night, depending on your time zone, or need like a fast internet connection to actually realize certain financial gains or opportunities. So all of these kind of led us to this type of Lockdrop approach. But most importantly, the community gets to determine the launch price of Heli together. The token, through this approach, will hopefully launch closer to the actual market pricing, which means that hopefully we're avoiding any large over or undervaluation of the Heli token, because during the time of the Lockdrop, the community and the participants will always see what would be the initial launch price of the Heli token once the pool has closed, and can make their participation decisions accordingly.
So essentially, since there's going to be 20 million Heli tokens in this pool, if 20 million HBAR get deposited in this pool, the price will be equal to that of HBAR. Right now, with the price of HBAR at 6 cents, if 3 million HBAR get deposited, the price of the Heli token would be about 1 cent. So that's how the price is going to be determined for the Heli token.
Yes, exactly. That's you summed it up pretty well. There are a few more details to it, which I'm going to share you now, so that we can make sure that anyone tuning in to listen to us actually has a fair good idea of what's happening. So you mentioned correctly that there will be 20 million Heli tokens attributed to the Lockdrop. This is a fixed number. And by attributing a fixed number, it also allows the actual price movements, etc., to remain stable. So we're not going to change this number retroactively up or downwards. And then the pool itself will be open for 7 days, starting on February 16th and close on February 23rd. So this is pretty soon. Participants can deposit the HBAR. And after these 7 days, the contributed HBAR is then matched with the 20 million Heli tokens, and we turn them into LP tokens. And those LP tokens are then used to create the initial HBAR Heli liquidity pool. So we are bootstrapping the liquidity, if you will. Now, these LP tokens are then allocated depending on the individual's HBAR contribution compared to the whole. And you are vesting them back to yourself over a time frame of 3 months. This is linear vesting, so it means that within every day 1 over 3 months in time has vested back to you, and you can go on a claim page, which is going to be the same page actually, and claim your LP tokens. Now, what's actually interesting about this approach is that we're not actually selling Heli. but we are distributing it to those committing to our project for the future. It's kind of like while a claim drop or an airdrop is kind of like retroactive, with the lock drop, we are kind of getting a certain level of future commitment, and we're rewarding our users for it by matching their HBAR with the Heli. So how does it look in detail? On day 1 to 5 of the community lock drop, you can freely deposit or withdraw your HBAR as many times as you want and with as much as you want. I'm looking at metrics such as the overall HBAR contribution or the initial launch price of Heli, and really make your own decision on participation. And then on day 6 and 7, we are not allowing any more deposits, but only withdrawals, which basically means that we're locking in a maximum Heli price. Then the participants can look at it and can decide whether they feel comfortable with it or they actually want to withdraw some of their HBAR and move the price downwards. Just it's important to note here that you can only withdraw 50% of your deposits on day 6, and then on day 7, it's a linear decrease from 50% to 0, and you can only withdraw your tokens once after day 5 has passed. I'll explain in a second why this is the case. We actually thought about this and we did our research and we saw some similar approaches that work very well. Without the mechanism on day 6 and 7, whales could deposit considerably more than they are actually planning on leaving in the pool, which would then inflate the token price way beyond what anyone else would pay to participate and actually discourages others from participating. Now, I mentioned earlier that we want to launch the Heli token as decentralized as possible, which means we want as many participants as possible, as many wallets to be involved as possible. So this would be kind of counteracting our actual approach, because when the actual deposit window closes, if we don't have the mechanisms of day 6 and 7, a whale could then just take the excess funds and end up buying the token at a much lower price. And also the token is not truly decentralized because a few wallets would hold the largest majority of the tokens. And most importantly, we would launch the token at not the actual natural valuation or price. So we kind of go into a bad price discovery. So that's why on day 6 and 7, by limiting, by first of all eliminating deposits and also limiting withdrawals, we kind of tune in on like a more natural price discovery. And then on day 7, when it decreases from 50% to 0, it's really a gradual decline that creates increased stability around the price discovery. And yeah, as the pool leads to closing, we will then have the final price of the Heli token.
All right, Max. So the big question is, how can people get involved and participate in the lock drop?
That's a very good question. So actually, it's quite simple. Basically, you just have to open the Heliswap app. We currently have the lock drop featured as page 1. And there is a lock drop page that shows you how much time is left until it starts. It already has kind of the widget installed and live where you would later on deposit and withdraw your HBAR, so you can fiddle around with it. We're also sharing all the information I just shared once more in further detail. Once we go live on the lock drop page, you can deposit and withdraw your tokens. We will keep everyone updated where we are at on day 1 to 5, day 6, day 7. And after the liquidity pool has created and your LP tokens start vesting, at the same base, same page, same everything, you will then be able to start claiming your LP tokens. And an interesting part here is that you may want to claim them to yourself and break them up because they are completely yours. But we also have installed a feature to stake them directly into the yield farm of HBAR and Heli, so you can start earning also APR rewards.
Max, well, I'm certainly going to participate. Thank you so much for coming on today and explaining it to us, and good luck.
Thank you very much.
All right, so I like what we're seeing coming out of the Heliswap team, and that's really going to change the way the farming rewards work, having their own token as well. Of course, we see on SaucerSwap, they have HBAR rewards, and they also have their native token. Now, that same thing's going to happen on Heliswap, so that's going to be good to see. We also had Pangolin, another cross-chain DeFi network, launch this week. Now, they're still having some little bugs, so I'm going to do full coverage on that a little bit later on. But also, BubbleSwap came out with their version 2. What do you think of what we've seen come out of BubbleSwap?
Yeah, so their version 1 has been out for, I think, a couple of months now, with yield-bearing opportunities on there, not financial advice. But the version 2 that they've just put out on the testnet, I think just looks really clean. Obviously I haven't experienced it, so I can't tell you what the full user experience is like. But just from the graphics that we've seen so far, I thought it looked really clean. And on the subject of pangolin, I think, obviously there's slight growing pains there. I'm sure there is when you go into different chain. Each different chain has its own ways of doing things that, the smaller things you find out over time. But, one big thing, just to be clear, I don't know what the growing pains are there, but, this is me hypothesizing, is that, Swirlds Labs are a big part of their roadmap this year is creating that EVM so that it's almost seamless. That sort of I think it's like EVM I can't remember the quite word terminology they used, but so that our Hedera Solidity smart contract service is as easy as possible to migrate through. So maybe, after this year, whatever trouble that might have appeared, again, I'm speculating here, but maybe in a year's time that won't exist. When there is that EVM equivalence between our chain and other chains that support Solidity smart contracts. So hopefully, that's going to be slowly smoothed out over time. And of course, Pangolin are working, very, very hard to get over those small boundaries to begin with. And I'm sure we'll hear a lot more next week.
So Swirlds Lab is always going to continue to work towards improving this entire ecosystem. They came out with that new gossip protocol, and hopefully that'll relaunch before too long. So they're going to always continually improve this space. All right, so the next thing I wanted to cover is what we had this past week in our Twitter space. We covered the Sustainable Impact Fund. We talked about ReFi, and Wes and Rob, who are really focused on the Sustainable Impact Fund within the HBAR Foundation, they dropped some truth bombs. So I wanted to grab some of those highlights and show them to our audience.
So regenerative finance is a broad term to focus on how we bring financial flows and direct financial flows back to folks who are effectively doing the work to bring sustainable practices to our planet. So it could be a farmer. We talked about farmers, for example, in the story that Stenver brought up, not necessarily getting fair value for the management practices of their specific project. And regenerative finance brings the financial flows back to those different parties and creates a structured ecosystem where we're not just spending money buying credits that send 80% of those financial flows to Wall Street and into a trading practice, but actually goes back to the folks doing the work, where we build healthy economic ecosystems within those communities, where we are enabling community-based verification, and we can actually create tighter knit communities that bring financial value to the place where impact is happening. And I could go into a much more technical definition from a more academic perspective, but at a high level, that's what we're focused on. On Hedera, ReFi and the implementations around ReFi are generally focused on things like the sustainable debt market, which is a multi-trillion-dollar market. And Alexi noted green bonds, carbon forwards as a couple sustainable debt instruments, but it's also measurement, reporting, and verification of those given projects in things like the voluntary carbon market or measuring emissions tied to the compliance carbon market, where folks are generally saying, well, I have an emissions allowance, I want to prove that I'm emitting a certain amount, and scaling that down over time. Those types of practices are all part of the broader ReFi ecosystem. And there's a ton of different ways that folks can interact within the ReFi ecosystem, whether you're a builder, a farmer, someone who wants to invest in these assets to get some form of return. That's kind of ReFi in a nutshell and ReFi on Hedera.
But one of the other things I wanted to mention is the study that came out of UCL, and really impressive, the infographic that just came out. Wes, of course, all use cases that are building on Hedera appreciate the low fees that are made possible by being so hyper efficient. But when you look at Hedera being 2 or 3 orders of magnitude more efficient than even platforms that tout as being pretty green, how important is that to this space?
I think it's fundamental to how we operate. It also gives us a freedom that I think sometimes we take for granted as builders in the space. In the Hedera ecosystem, we're not worrying about changing the underlying protocol to build net new solutions because that protocol is causing excess use of natural resources or energy-based resources. We're really just focused in our ecosystem of bringing, in the sustainability ecosystem in particular, bringing the balance sheet of the planet to the public ledger. But we're focused on bringing that onto Hedera in such a way where we don't have to think twice about the damage we're causing along the way. And I think that's really important because that's not just for sustainability, but for any use case you build on Hedera. Now, the report is based, a lot of the headlines are based on the transaction efficiency, where it's there's a lot of zeros and then a 3, focused on saying that there's so few kilowatt hours per transaction that it's extremely efficient. But after a certain point, you can only add so many zeros before you're using just a minimum amount of energy, and it proves extremely efficient. As a builder, I think that's phenomenal, because whether you're using the consensus service to log information, or the token service to understand the state of value, or the smart contract service to run programmatically focused or program-based applications, you don't have to think twice. And I think that's the real big takeaway for the market is we don't have to worry about the inefficiencies of other platforms when we build on Hedera. That being said, there are a lot of other proof of stake networks that have made improvements, and I think that there should be acknowledgement of those improvements, because those improvements are hard fought, and change is not always easy. And so I think we compliment them and we say, that's great work. Going through those changes takes a lot of adoption and management of that community. At the same time, I'm very grateful we didn't have to do that. We could focus our effort on achieving the real world outcomes that we really aim to focus on in the Hedera ecosystem. But I'd love to, hear Rob's reaction too on this, is someone who's also a longstanding community member and thinking about it. That's certainly the way that I view it.
So we talk a lot about the scalability of the network, and obviously we've just recently seen the famed step change, which has caused no breaking of sweat on the network at all. That should be enough to start drawing attention to the other really beneficial properties of the Hedera network. And in the Sustainable Impact Fund, we talk about this quite a lot. I mean, this kind of strap line now that's come from the latest UCL report of the whole of the network, taking less than a standard house in terms of energy consumption to operate. I mean, that's not just us saying these things. That's an independent academic organization that has done significant diligence repeatedly over a period of time to actually put their reputations on the line to state these things. We're going into a next phase where the network scales through additional nodes, through additional governing council members, through community nodes. It'll be really interesting to see the report next year, because we actually believe that the network becomes more energy efficient transactionally the more nodes we add. So I think this is a narrative that we quite rightly put first and foremost, because all of these other solutions don't actually allude to the fact that they're carrying a ton of carbon debt that they need to offset before they even make any impact on the planet at all. We don't have that problem. We know that we've got a carbon negative network. We know that we've had independent verification that's the case, and we know that we're building the right solutions and the right ecosystem to leverage that for the right reasons. I don't think I really need to say any more than that, because the message is getting out there. At COP27 at Davos, this was the headline: the sustainability of the network and the sustainability of our ecosystem built around Guardian and Tolam and Evercity and Solid World DAO and what Timeless are doing. These are all partners who are out there, both champions and advocates, and commercially minded operators of the Hedera network. So it's the message is getting out, and we can just keep on beating the drum until all the solutions that are built in the sustainability space are naturally building on Hedera.
So it's always good to hear Rob and Wes talk about stuff. They are great thought leaders in the space. We also had the Messari Report come out this week. What were your thoughts about what we saw come out of that?
So we saw the State of Hedera Q4 report for last year come out. We saw that Hedera ended up with an all-time high in TVL. So that's, of course, SaucerSwap doing a big part of that. Stader, also Heliswap and BubbleSwap. We also saw the Hedera consensus service set a record for the amount of users it has. Obviously, the transactions also picked up massively there towards the end. We saw the smart contract service, I think, set all-time highs in terms of transactions. We saw, Aberdeen join the council. We saw network staking go live. Network revenue went up as well, of course. That's very important. All of these different things that Messari covered. And that was before even Q1 of this year, when, of course, we saw that massive spike in account creation through Liithos. We saw all of those transactions coming through our first enterprise use case. We've done 500 million transactions, in the past sort of 2 weeks or something. I mean, I'm pulling that out of the air, but it's something similar to that. So I mean, when the Q1 report comes around for this quarter, I mean, it's gonna blow us away. I think with just how far the Hedera network has come in a year and a half, maybe a year. Just seeing how much has been developed, the use cases coming online, the accounts being generated, the DeFi TVL hopefully going up, both with new users, but also hopefully, the market will pick up slightly, who knows. So yeah, just Q1, I think for Hedera is, given how successful Q4 was, we already know that Q1 is going to be as successful, if not more. So a lot of things to be excited about there, definitely.
Yeah, there's plenty to be excited about. And one of the other things is Web3 tooling. We talk about Archaea, we talk about Hashport, we talk about LedgerWorks, and we talk about Turtle Moon. Of course, Patches is doing a fantastic job. Can you tell us about their new voting mechanism for HCS?
Yeah, so within Turtle Moon, which is Patches CEO of Turtle Moon, they've got the Launchpad and various different other things for NFTs. But they've also created a token-gated voting mechanism using, I suppose token, but so the HTS, but also the Hedera consensus service to sort of write votes and allow people to really cast a vote in a immutable and transparent way to reduce fraud. Obviously, on a smaller scale like this, hopefully fraud wouldn't be happening as much. But it's this kind of thing that really makes you see how something like blockchain voting or rather hash graph voting in the future could have a real prevalent role in politics and things like that. So again, Patches has outdone himself as always. He's an incredible force for the Hedera community. And this is another piece of utility that he's providing. So go check it out, definitely.
I know everybody has heard me say this over and over again, but one of the representatives from Google Cloud said that they're focused on building the Web3 tooling to bring the next 10 million developers into the space to onboard the next billion users. So the Web3 tooling is really important. And of course, Patches with Turtle Moon is really focused on that. All right. And moving from Web3 tooling into community, one of the things, we focus a lot on Twitter because we do our Twitter spaces. We do our Twitter spaces every Tuesday. The community has plenty of Twitter spaces. We focus on Telegram as well, but Discord is blowing up when it comes to the Web3 space. And Swirls Labs has recognized that. So they did a revamp of their Discord server, and they also are doing these weekly chats. They just started one this past week, and it was good to see the revamp as well. What do you think?
Definitely. I mean, of course, we used to hang out in the Telegram channels back in the day, but since the rise of our NFT community, that is the home. Discord is the home of the NFT community, and DeFi and all of these decentralized applications that emerge. Their main hub is on Discord, and so I think it's really important that there is that sort of town hall there for all these projects that exist within Discord, all sub-centric around Hedera. But until now, they didn't really have that hangout spot. The Discord for Hedera was much more developer focused. Wasn't very sort of degen retail friendly. It was more you go in there and get questions answered for technical questions. And so to now have, I think, a general channel back whereby we can all hang out and, we can talk to each other. They're introducing all the fun new stickers and stuff, which are a cool part of Discord, of course. And, I've made it a part of my routine now. So, wake up, make sure I check that Discord in the same way that I used to with Telegram. And I think it's going to be a really nice hangout spot that, we've all missed. Of course, HBAR Price had a great Telegram channel back in the day. And of course, we all missed that. And so to have something like this again, which is, actually run by Hedera, I think is really important. And it shows that Hedera really is focusing more on the community as we develop. And same for the foundation, same for everyone. There's been a real sense of, I think community support that is beginning to emerge, that perhaps there were arguments against that in the past, but I really think, there's obviously always a long way to go with anything, but I think there's a real concerted effort to make sure we're all together in a place and we're all, hanging out again. So I'm really excited for the future of that Discord, definitely.
Yeah, community is certainly paramount. All right, let's get into some network analysis. In terms of transaction volume, still, of course, looking really good there. We're sitting at just under 49 million transactions over the past 24 hours. And earlier in the week, we set a new record at just over 52 million transactions. I'm really liking what I'm seeing out of the smart contracts as well. We have 31,000 smart contract calls over the past 24 hours. And time to consensus is sitting at just under 5 seconds. And things are looking really good as far as account creation. What are we seeing there?
Yeah, I mean, we're up, 543% today. So 28,500 accounts created in the last 24 hours. We're up 88% on the week. So we've got 63,500 new accounts this week. Again, we said last week that this week could look good for the account creation. We don't know if that's coming from Liithos yet. I'm not sure where it's coming from. But either way, whatever we said last week about looking forward to account generation is coming to fruition. Hopefully we'll find out more about where those accounts are coming for next week, or in the midweek we can clarify on Twitter. But massive account creation.
Yeah, good to see for sure. And as far as our fungible tokens, there is some news coming out along those lines. We had the Galaxy token, which has been listed on Bittrex. And in our top 10, we have our usual suspects. We have Energy Trade token, we have Wrapped HBAR, we have Sauce, Dovu, USDC coin, and on down the line. And moving down to our NFTs, all kinds of good stuff happening there. We have Ashfall, of course, in the top 10. We have Hashgraph Name Service. And as far as number of transactions, ElfU, the cosmetics company NFT, is doing well. We're seeing a lot of good news come out of our NFT space. Zeb, what are we seeing?
Yeah, so for the first time, we actually went onto the left side of StockTwits' data pool that they get every day. So every 24 hours, they publish the 24-hour volume of some of the biggest chains. And so there's a left side column, the highest volume on the left down, and then you get the next highest volume on the right down. And so for the first time, we moved from the right side, which is where the lower volume is, to the left side of the page, which put us above Algorand, near Tezos, some of the biggest NFT chains, Avalanche as well, I believe. And I think we were up 99% on our normal volume. And that was thanks to Earthlings. Did a fantastic job selling out. I didn't even get close to scooping something out there. And then, we also had, Liithos, of course, which I'm sure played a pivotal role in that. And we also had Hungry Baboons do very well as well. They're a big contributor to that volume. Mm-hmm. And alongside that, fantastic from Earthlings, fantastic from Hungry Baboons. We've seen so much hype, I think, in the last few days. Last week surrounding HBAR NFTs. We've seen Dead Pixels trending a lot. They've been doing a great job getting into other communities. I think their drop for Gen 4 is on the 8th of this month, so in 5 days, I think. The more HBAR NFT projects we have on Hedera, like Humans.ai, whatever it might be, the more traditional companies that come in as well that are using Hedera NFTs, that gives even more credibility to our artist community. People realize the efficiency of Hedera. People come in to use HBAR NFTs. More users come in. They know there's longevity in this network. And so they know that the NFT community also has longevity. So I said on Twitter earlier that, these use cases that are being done by these enterprises are helping, rise the tide for each of our NFT projects. Because each time it gives our technology, the NFT technology, the tokenization technology, more credibility. But beyond, NFTs as projects, I was talking to this guy called Fade, who's a community member. I think he's a solo dev, which is pretty extraordinary considering how much he's created. But he's launched, or I think soft launch, it's in its beta, something called Amari GG, Amari MARI.GG. And this is essentially a raffle system for NFTs built on Hedera. A core part of any healthy NFT ecosystem is this raffle system, to be able to prove that people buy tickets for obviously a cheaper rate to hopefully win an NFT, but to be able to prove on Ledger that the person who bought that ticket won. It's not, it's not some mate just handing down a ticket to a friend. It's all on Ledger. The consensus is there. You can see on chain who bought what ticket and who legitimately won it. So this is a great piece of infrastructure that Fade has introduced. I know that he's been working with Hashpack there as well, I believe. And they're doing, they've got raffles on there at the moment. There's 60 live as I'm looking now. So yeah, really exciting. A great job to Fade. He's made it look lovely. The UI looks great. The display looks great. It just seems like a good dApp all around to have and a great piece of infrastructure for us all.
Yeah, the infrastructure builds that are going on are great to see. All right, so we'll go ahead and move on to DeFi. Looking at SaucerSwap, their total value locked is at about $30 million. their farming rewards on some of their popular trading pairs, we have HBAR USDC at about 54%, HBAR Sauce at 43%, and HBAR X at 15%. And the LP rewards, we have HBAR X at just under 1%, Sauce HBAR at about 1.7%, and USDC HBAR at 7.3%. Moving over to Heliswap, their total value locked is at $7.5 million, and the farming rewards on USDC HBAR is at about 55%, and HBAR X is at 11%. I do have an update for Stater as well. They've reduced their extra staking rewards from 60,000 HBAR per day or per epoch down to 50,000 HBAR per day. And that has reduced the APY to about 8.2% or about 1.7% above what you'll get from native HBAR staking. And let's go ahead and take a look at the crypto and HBAR markets. Bitcoin is down about 1.6% over the past 24 hours and up about the same over the past week. HBAR has had a pretty darn good week, up about 8% over the past 7 days and about 5% over the past 24 hours. HBAR has been in a trading range over the past couple weeks, between about 6.2 cents and 7.4 cents. And right now we're sitting at about 7.2 cents. So that 6.2 cent level should offer some support, and I'm expecting to see resistance if we continue this run at the 7.4 and then up at the 8 cent level. And taking a look at the broader macro environment, risk assets have been on a tear, and that was helped along by the Fed rate decision, where they raised rates 0.25%. Now, that was generally to be expected. It was between 0.25% or 0.5%, but what I was expecting was if they came out at 0.25%, they would have some hawkish rhetoric, and if they came out at 0.5%, they'd have more dovish rhetoric. But that's not what we saw. They came out with 0.25% raise, and they were also dovish with their rhetoric. So that caused risk assets with crypto, and especially tech stocks, to really rally. But we did get some positive news on the macro front, and we're kind of in a space where good news is bad news, because it could cause the Fed to be more aggressive in fighting inflation. And that piece of news was the jobs report. Now, the Fed rate decision came out on Wednesday, and this jobs report came out today, Friday. The U.S. economy added over 500,000 jobs in January, resulting in the unemployment rate falling to 3.4%. That could put upward pressure on inflation, and of course, like I said, could cause the Fed to be more hawkish. This caused the most recent move in risk assets to be down, except for HBAR, which is holding up pretty well at the time of recording. All right, Zep, is there anything else you'd like to pass on to the community before we let you go?
The most important word that you just said there is community. We've seen in the last week just the power of our community, specifically in the HBAR NFT side of things. We've seen it trending. We've seen all of our communities coming together. But, so much of it is done on Twitter. Now, of course, each of these projects has their own Discord. But I think, we really are seeing us all be reunited again within this Discord. And I'm really excited for that, just as one thing. But beyond that, we saw the Q4 report come out. And that is just the drop in the ocean, I think. It's the start of these metrics really coming to fruition. It's the start of everything we've known that's going to happen. And it was that tease at the end of the Q4, which already looks fantastic on paper. But now we know that we're rocketing with the HCS transactions. Got more DeFi protocols coming with Pangolin once they smooth that out. We've got 4 weeks of Michael Lee and Liithos. So I'm sure we're going to get more accounts generated there. And, of course, there's always going to be more announcements from the Hashgraph Association, which we have no idea about, that come out of nowhere. You've got, obviously, Hedera do a lot of their own stuff that just drops into the market out of nowhere. So, there's just so much to be excited about. And Lehman also had an interview today, which has come out. So that's there for everyone to watch. The Davos videos are out there for everyone to watch. I think just all in all, another busy week, another great week for us both to cover. And just so much happening. And really looking forward to be hanging out with everyone in that Discord again, definitely.
And of course, there are huge benefits to being in this community. For example, Atma.io is putting tons of transactions on the network. We know about what's going on there, but they haven't done a press release or talked about it much yet. But I'm sure that's coming. And when the rest of the market realizes what's going on there, that's going to have a big impact. So next weekend, we have that Hash and Times put on by Generation Infinity. Certainly check that out. We're going to have one of those huge giveaways through Blade Wallet and through LG Art Labs. I'm not exactly sure what we're going to do for next week's Twitter space. Might get the wallets on, maybe have Blade on to talk about and answer some questions around what they're doing, maybe have Walla Wallet and Hashpack on, but we'll nail that down over the next few days. So that's pretty much all we have. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next week.